everyone, I'm Monique, welcome to Newbie. I'm thrilled about today's video. Not only am I sharing my new motif and tatalong with you, but I'm about to share the next very exciting step in the Newbie journey. I'd love you to come with me. Are you ready? Okay, so today's video and all future videos and patterns will now be in my own hand-dyed thread. I'm so excited, I'm so nervous. There is so much to do. But right now you guys are here to tat daisy, so we'll talk more about my thread at the end of the video. So this tatalong is in two parts. In the first video we're working daisy as a single motif, and I'll talk a little bit about making it a repeat. In the second video we're working that repeat and making a little mat. Now daisy is suitable for both newbies and advanced tatters. You'll need either a shuttle and ball or two shuttles. I'm going to be working with two shuttles because that's the way I like to work. So make sure you choose what works best for you. Righto, I'll see you at my work table.
Daisy is a single tat, meaning there's only one round to the motif. If you're working with two colours, you'll have 4 tails to hide, 2 at the start and 2 at the end. Tat over one tail as you start the first ring. Include a magic loop on the other side of the ring. I'll include a link for my detailed video on magic loops if anyone needs it. Once you've worked the 3 rings of the clover, reverse your work, tat over the second tail in the first chain. Work your way around as you near the end of the final chain. Include the second magic loop in the last few stitches. That takes care of all of our tails. The tails from the start have been worked in here and here. Magic loops are in place for the end tails here and here. If you decide to work with continuous thread, you'll only have 2 tails to hide at the end. These can be taken care of by placing magic loops in the first and last chains. I want to look at the other chains for a second. If you're working daisy as a single motif, the chain can be worked with a total count of 32, being 15 and 17. And I think I just heard everyone gasp. Don't stress about 32 stitches. It does sound like a lot, but there's a way we can work the chain so that it sits nicely, and I promise to share my tips with you as we go. If you are working daisy as a single motif, you don't need this joining picot. You might like to have plain chains. You might like to fill the chain with picots. If you intend to join repeat motifs, some of the chains need to be worked as 15, picot, 17, picot, 2. I say some of the chains because it will depend on how you position the motif. All the internal chains will need joining picots, but you can do what you like with the outside chains. The total stitch count won't vary. You should always have a total of 32, then picot 2. This picot 2 is functional. It's holding our motif together, so leave that part alone. But you have 32 stitches on the outside edges where you can go for your life. As with a single motif, you might prefer plain chains, or you might make the chain super frilly with lots of decorative picots. Totally up to you. This corner motif needs a joining picot on 2 sides, leaving 2 sides free where we can either add picots or not. 3 sides are attached to this motif, giving us only 1 side to play with. So just be aware of how your motifs are going together and where your joining picots need to be. So even though this video is only working one motif, I wanted to explain about the chains and picots, because if you intend to continue and make a larger project, it kind of makes sense for you to use this motif in the project. If you're going to do that, you need to be thinking about your picots. My shuttles are wound with continuous thread. I've included a link below for anyone who needs help with how to do this. As I mentioned earlier, continuous thread immediately eliminates the first set of tails, so I only have 2 end tails to hide when I finish. I prefer to split my tails up. You don't have to, but it does reduce bulk. 2 tails in one chain gets a little chunky. You might prefer to sew your tails in, and that's okay too. It's your work, so do what you're comfortable with. To start Daisy, we're wrapping our hand and working ring A with a count of 5, picot 2, picot 2, picot 4, picot 1. We're not reversing our work, we are rotating our work slightly to the left so that we're ready to start ring B. We have 1, we're joining back to ring A, we're working 8, picot 5, picot 8, picot 1. Again, don't reverse, but slightly rotate your work to the left as we set up for ring C. We're working 1, joining back to ring B, and continuing with 4, picot 2, picot 2, picot 5. Reverse your work and set your hand up for your first chain. Now I'm going to work my mat design for the tatalong. It doesn't matter which motif I work first. I reckon I'd normally start with this one, but because this is the first video, I'm going to work the middle one so we have an individual motif and you can see where all the joining picots sit. I've decided to leave my outside chains free of picots, and that means when I come to work this motif, there'll be a joining picot on every single chain. But working this motif, I'll have 1, 2, 3, 4 chains which are free of picots. I need to join to these 2, and I need to make picots as I'm working these 2 chains ready for this motif to join back to. So I'm going from my first clover, reversing my work, setting up for a chain, and I'm working 15 picot, 17 picot 2. I'm including the first magic loop as I start this chain. I was merrily working my chain and then remembered I promised to show you how to work a long chain. A good way to work a long chain, especially if you're still working at your tension, is to work 5 or 6 stitches and then stop, hold those stitches on the pad of your finger, secure it with your thumb, and give your core thread a gentle snug. Pull them up just a little bit. Continue with the next 5 or 6. And snug. Tension's actually a hard thing to teach because you need to learn how to feel it as well as see it. So if you're struggling with tension, it sounds like a crazy thing to do, but work a few stitches, close your eyes, and then snug your chain. Feel it through your fingers. Your stitches will tell you when to stop. When you feel that little bit of resistance on your core thread, that's when you stop. So work the next few stitches and snug. Next few stitches and snug. Continue like this until you've completed the chain. Once you've finished the chain, it might not sit like you want it to, so play with it. It's just cotton. Manipulate the chain until you're happy with how it looks. Now if it's not snugged enough, I'm just going to loosen that out a little bit. It's not snugged enough, it's going to be loose and floppy. It won't have any body to it. If you go too tight, if I pull that chain up really tightly, you can see it's gone rigid. The stitches aren't very nice at all. So it's just a matter of finding that happy in between. If you've gently snugged your chain every few stitches, chances are it's looking pretty good. I'm just going to quickly put a few more on here so we have a longer chain, because I just want to show you that if you're still not completely happy with it, lay it in front of you, secure the end, the start with your fingers, and run your finger along the top. Just smooth it out. And from there we can hold our core thread and gently work it back so that we get a nice curve. So after making your chain, reverse your work, and we're working ring D, 16 picot 1. Slightly rotate your work, start ring E, had to think about that, with 1, we're joining back to ring D, work 5, join back to ring B, and then we continue with 4 picot 4 picot 5 picot 1. Once again, we are slightly rotating our work, starting ring F with 1, join back to ring E, And then we're working 5, picot 4, picot 4, picot 5, picot 1. We're rotating our work for ring G. And this is where it gets a little bit tight because we're actually making a 4-ring clover, not a 3-ring clover. And this chain tends to get in the way. So just tuck it underneath. And that allows you to get up nice and close to make that first stitch. Get that in close to the base of the previous ring. We're joining back. And finishing out that ring with a count of 15. Reverse your work and set up for the chain. We're working 2, joining back to the adjacent chain. Now I'm working a down join because I'm working front side back side, but if you're working traditionally you will make an up join. And continuing our chain. If you're working a single motif and following the pattern, your count is 17, picot 15. Reverse your work, and we are starting ring H. We have 5, picot 2, picot 2, picot 4, picot 1. Slightly rotate your work, set up for ring I. We're working 1, joining back to ring H. We have 8. We're joining back to the lower picot on ring F. Then working 5, picot 8, picot 1. Rotate again, ready for ring J. Work your first double stitch and your join. And then finish the ring with 4, picot 2, picot 2, picot 5. Reverse your work. And make your chain. So for me that is a count of 15, picot, 17, picot 2. Reversing our work again. We're starting ring K. we're working 15 picot 1. Rotate your work slightly. Setting up for ring L, we're starting with 1, joining back to ring K, work 5, join back to ring I, we're working 4, and now we're joining back to ring F. Continue with 4 picot 5 picot 1. Rotate slightly to start ring M with 1 and joining back to ring L, and we're working 5 picot 4 picot 4 picot 5 picot 1. Rotate again for ring N, and once again we're folding, or I like to fold this chain down, starting ring N with 1, join back to ring M, and finishing that ring with a count of 15. Okay, so I've done a bit more than just the first repeat because I wanted to show this 3-way connection, just in case anyone found it confusing or there's newbies struggling to follow the pattern. So we're basically halfway. The rest of the motif is a repeat of what we just did. From here, you'll reverse your work and start making the next chain. I'm going to work my way around the rest of the motif and see you back at the beginning. Okay, this is where I'm at. I've worked my way all the way around and I'm working the last 4 ring clover. This is ring A, B, C, D and E. My last ring needs to join to both of these rings. So this is the ring I'm currently working. I need to join back to ring E as well as ring B. So making this join to ring E first. I'm going to work my 4 stitches. And now join back to ring B. And finish out my ring with 5 picot 1. Rotating my work slightly, I'm going to fold this clover down as well as this chain to make it easier for me to work that very last ring. We're doing 1, joining back to the previous ring and working 15. Reversing work, we're going to start that last chain. So doing 2 and joining back to the adjacent chain. Okay, so that is my last chain, and I'm ready to join it back to the base of ring A. So I have my core thread and my working thread. I'm going to take my core thread up to this little gap that we have with our clover, and I'm going to pull my core thread through to the back. You can either use a crochet hook or do it with a needle. And my magic loop and my working thread are going to come in here and sit underneath like that as I pull that down. So turning my work over to the back allows me to get both of my threads and pull them into that groove. Just sorting out my magic loops here, so I've got one either side, because I want to wedge that in there. I want it to sit nice and close to the other chain, and that's not quite got it because I haven't tied it up. So I'm going to tie a square knot, and I'm tying right over left, and as I pull that down I'm going to pull it in really tight, and as I said, wedge that chain in there. I'm tying left over right. Going back to my magic loops. Making sure I know which one's which. This tail didn't need to be quite so long, but it was the end of my shuttle, so there wasn't a lot of point in cutting it. Trim your tails off. And that is our first motif of Daisy.
So how'd you go? I hope you enjoyed the first part of the tatalong, and I hope you liked my new thread. Today I used a colourway called Lavender Valley. It's actually one of my favourites. I'll leave pictures of the other colourways at the end of the video. Unfortunately, it is just photos of the thread at this stage. I need more hours in the day to get the motifs tatted up, but as I work my way through the colourways, I will be posting them on the New Bear Facebook group, so keep your eye out for those. At the time of filming, which is September 2024, I decided on a soft launch for the sale of my thread, just till I get everything up and running. The thread will be available in Etsy, but in the meantime, if you'd like to place an order or have a query, you can message or email me. My contact details are on the Facebook group. Well, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed Daisy, and I'll see you when we do the mat design in the next video. Bye.